左手邊後排中間白衫女記者。
你好，李生，now 嘅，想問下，即係政府推出紅黃碼啦，其實黃碼就希望縮短嗰個入境酒店檢疫嘅日數啦。其實早前有傳5+2嘅一個酒店檢疫同埋一個家居健康監察嘅安排，會唔會再放寬啦？都有意見認為，其實如果係推出咗之後，其實7日都唔需要有一個酒店檢疫啦。呢方面有冇得考慮呢？第二隻即係政府之前都講到就係推出安心出行嘅實名制同埋紅黃碼啦。雖然就係話只係限制咗2個組別嘅人士啦，但係都有議員表明咗，其實都擔心係成為咗疫情以外嘅一個政治工具啦。都有議員提到，其實喺內地都有出現就係有政府利用一個紅碼去限制咗一啲銀行嘅存款用戶咧係自由出入嘅情況啦。到底政府點樣可以說服到市民呢個紅黃碼咧，淨係得一個疫情嘅用途而冇其他嘅用途啦？最後就係今次即係政府喺推呢啲政策出嚟之前，有冇問過專家啦？未來會唔會都委任翻專家嘅顧問呢？定係話直接由即係醫務衛生局局長落決定就可以咧？唔該。
剛才講紅黃綠碼，我亦都好清晰講啦。黃碼而家我哋係只係針對一類別嘅人，睇下嗰個真真正正嘅檢疫嗰個限制日數，我哋點樣可以係將嗰個日數去符合到我哋嘅數據，從而咧將個限制減到最少，去令到經濟活動又好，社會活動又好咧，以及我哋國際競爭力咧係可以保持嘅。呢個第一點啦。咁所以實際上我哋將嗰個日數係點樣有定案呢？我哋都係睇數據。咁呢個係醫衞局咧係好積極咁去分析緊數據。咁我相信亦都應該會盡快我哋將個新嘅考慮咧去向大家公告嘅。第二咧就係我哋香港無論用任何方法咧去處理疫情咧，一定係符合法律嘅。我哋係一個非常守法嘅地方政府就必然會守法添啦。所以咧將任何措施用喺非抗疫嘅範圍咧係唔會發生，亦都不切實際。如果任何人咧喺呢方面嘗試去製造一啲事端咧，我可以話俾佢聽咧，絕對唔係事實咁大家亦都唔需要相信。喺我哋運用任何措施，如果係唔符合法律嘅，第一政府唔會做，第二咧一定會有翻個後果。我同意喺我哋整體解說嘅工作咧會做好嘅。呢方面咧就第一，我同政務司司長咧已經大家同意喺整體統籌同埋推出所有嘅措施咧我哋都會係好認真去審核晒所有範圍涉及嘅問題，從而咧喺解說同埋解釋方面咧係做到位等大家都知道實際嘅情況咧，只係針對疫情，只係希望我哋盡可能將因為我哋抗疫嘅措施所影響嘅人減到最低。換言之，本來5000人要受限制嘅，我希望減到1000人，其他4000人咧都可以有一啲，例如我哋准許嘅點對點嘅活動，個目的就係咁嘅。另外咧，專家顧問咧係我哋會係委派嘅。而事實上咧，喺我仲係當選咗未上任嘅時候咧，我已經係同專家組咧有過2次嘅接觸。有一次即係我本人啦，另外一次咧就係我加埋盧教授嘅，即係醫衞局局長嘅。咁當時因為我哋未上任咧，就所以我哋係有一個非正式嘅溝通。而我相信當時我哋都應該發咗新聞稿嘅。我哋係當然係聽專家意見嘅，亦都覺得專家嘅意見咧，特別喺數據同埋科學方面嘅意見咧，係值得我哋參考。我哋好快咧，亦都會宣布委任專家嘅事宜㗎啦。
跟住下一位提問，咁
In Hong Kong Free Press. First, even with a shortened quarantine, do you think business people or tourists will visit, show vaccination proof, spend thousands on a hotel and undergo, a dozen rat tests or PCR tests to attend meetings or do business? Is it compatible with Xi Jinping's instruction to maintain Hong Kong's status when, Singapore is already fully open? Also, you just warned against stirring trouble when it comes to the idea of the health code being used for political purposes. But of course, we've seen this in Hainan province, and the government has already, said a couple of years ago they would not enact a health code. So how can you reassure Hong Kongers and rebuild trust over enacting this policy?
Well, first of all, every government, of course, have to design their COVID control measures according to their own circumstances. We have our own circumstances because we have a high proportion of elderly people. Our living conditions are relatively very dense, which are all factors that point to the higher risk of spreading the COVID virus. That's the first thing. The second thing is, from our experience in the fifth wave of the COVID attack, we know that the safety margin that was set at that time probably would not be sufficient in view of the fast spreading rate of Omicron. So what we need to do now is to balance these two risks. We have to ensure that the life safety of people who are facing a high risk, such as the elderly, the very young, such as children, and also people who suffer from long-term diseases, in which case their resistance to disease attack is weakened, and also people who are exposed to high risk, such as people in the medical profession. So we have to balance the risk so that we do not have an escalating rate of infected persons that will, first of all, overwhelm our medical system, the hospital system, and secondly, the people who are facing high risk are sufficiently protected. So what we are trying to do is be scientific and precise in our actions so that on the one hand, we can protect people who face such high risks, and at the same time, allow people to come in and out of Hong Kong more easily and more conveniently. That is what we are doing. That is why we are trying to reduce the number of days that a person will have to be isolated in a hotel or quarantined in a hotel so that they can then go about their normal activities. It is a balancing act which is not easy, but has to be taken into consideration based on actual circumstances. That's the first thing. The second thing is the health code, which is being introduced, is only to target two types of people, and they are very specific and small number. First of all, the red code is intended to identify people who have been infected, and they should not be going around to spread the virus. And the second group is also very small and well-defined, which are the people who are now being kept in a quarantine hotel. We introduce this yellow code for them so that when we design measures to allow them to have some limited activities so that business can continue in a much normal way, and we need some identification method. That is the whole purpose of the red and yellow code. And in the long run, I think we have to be realistic of what kind of risks we may be facing. First of all, we can see the figure escalating. Already now it averages at about 3,000. And the figures and the trend indicate that the figures will go up very quickly as well. And the hospitalization rate has already gone up at least by double, from 300 something to 900 something within 1.5 months. So we have to face this reality. That is why we are thinking of designing methods that will be able to allow us to react more quickly, to respond more precisely, and at the same time, allow more people who don't have to be so restrictive in their activities so that normal business can go about and the economy can go about in a much relaxed way. That's the purpose of what we are doing. But of course, we will listen to views, and we will also try to reduce the inconvenience to people, and also we'll make sure that we'll well explain the scope and the method so that people understand why we do it what benefits they gain, and what are the concerns that they do not have to really bother, because there may be some misinformation which we need to address very quickly, so that everybody knows what we are doing.
由上屆政府成立嘅專家顧問團，而家係仲有冇運作緊嘅？因為上屆政府有講過話，希望檢討第5波疫情嘅處理手法，而前特首亦都講話希望會就住呢樣嘢去俾意見嘅，所以想知道現屆政府係有冇呢個計劃？第二就係留意到特首上任之後加強咗網上嘅宣傳工作，多咗分享自己嘅生活同埋工作點滴。我就想問你認為咁樣做係咪可以修補到社會累積落嚟嘅撕裂，定係嚟緊會做啲乜嘢去特別增強市民，尤其是年青人對你嘅信心？唔該。
剛才我都答咗，就專家顧問組呢，我哋係會好快呢就再委任嘅。事實上喺我仲係後任嘅期間，我已經係同專家組呢係見過2次，一次就係我本人，一次係同埋盧教授嘅。我哋都係有好認真嘅交流，大家特別喺科學嘅論述同埋觀點呢，都係有充分交流。而將來呢，我哋都會去同專家聽佢嘅意見呢，係去作出我哋任何防疫抗疫嘅決定嘅。所以呢個係會做㗎啦。另外一樣嘢呢，就係我係認為任何人如果更加了解政府嘅運作，或者我本人呢個行政長官佢個性格係點啊，或者我嘅個人一啲對事物嘅睇法係點啊，通過溝通呢係大家了解呢係會增進認識咁樣係會第日喺任何溝通嘅領域方面都有幫助嘅。咁當然除咗喺社交媒體裏邊作溝通呢，我都講咗，我係會去接觸不同界別嘅人士嘅，亦都喺10月嘅施政報告嘅工作裏邊，其中要準備嘅呢，都係聽不同人士意見，對於施政報告有咩諗法嘅。咁所以喺整個過程裏邊呢，我又好，司長又好，局長又好呢，都會接觸不同嘅人士去聽意見嘅。咁大家呢，都可以喺個過程裏邊呢，睇到我哋係同邊啲人士會有邊類型嘅溝通，同埋喺過程裏邊呢，係大家係點樣接觸嘅。